Welcome to the show, Eimear Quinn. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. It's lovely to see you.
You too. So you have a new album out called Songs of Winter Dreaming. What can you tell us about it?
Oh gosh, so it's actually my most recent collection of music that I've been working on for a little while as a result of touring at in winter time. I brought out an album of Christmas music back in 2007, and I tour around Ireland every December. And since 2007, an interesting thing has happened. I think things have really changed around Christmas time. First of all, I mean, society, particularly in Ireland in general, has become much more secular. And Christmas is coming in earlier and earlier. From a marketing point of view, we're getting into it earlier and earlier and earlier. So a lot of people were kind of looking for a way into winter and Christmas and everything that wasn't about the nativity and wasn't specifically, Christmas music like Michael Bublé things right away. And so I wanted to create a collection that was more, I suppose, seasonal, focused on early winter, kind of into December and Advent and the solstice in particular, then onto Christmas time, and then on to first footing in the new year, and create a whole kind of seasonal album. So really.
Interesting. And what was the process like of putting the album together?
It was really fun actually because it started out with this one song, which is the kind of lead song on the album called Song of Winter Dreaming. And the idea was that it was going to be a song that was kind of dreaming in the aspirational sense, So um, look, looking for a way through these kind of chaotic and divisive times that we live in, that we're all so conscious of, that being pushed further and further away from each other and into our corners, and just a kind of a hopeful, optimistic song about dreaming of deeper connectedness and seeing the humanity more easily in each other, and refusing really to be pushed apart, and refusing to kind of succumb to the fear of other that's always being pushed at us, and to just kind of remember to love as we want to be loved, and to kind of rush towards this light and this aspiration of just remembering that we're all the one really, and we're all the same. So it's about commonality and humanity, and so that was really the grain of the album in many ways, and that first song. And then I wrote some other really, I suppose, new music based on that a little bit. It was another track called Silent Snow, which also is a sense of one's higher self, talking in a reassuring way to those of us in the earthly roar. And then I do kind of go on to a song that I've written with Brendan Graham called Winter Solstice, which is about that slowing down and the remembering that we are just all, beings on this earth, and we're meant to kind of slightly hibernate this time of year, and go within and slow down and embrace the darkness, and take time for each other, and take time for coziness, and recognizing the fact that everything needs to go deep within in order to be able to come forth in the springtime. And then I go on into remembering about a lot of the Christmas songs that I loved. I have a new arrangement of Away in a Manger. I like to kind of take things and put them into new structures. So I have that kind of in a minor key. And then I kind of take it on the journey of where I go this time of year and my memories. And always growing up when I was little, we always sang the Robbie Burns poem, Auld Lang Syne, at New Year's Eve. And so um, I've always found it to be, we always sang it in a very jolly way. We'd link arms as a big, big family. I was one of 26 grandchildren. We'd all gather in this two-bedroom little house in Dublin. And yeah, we'd have a big rip-roaring party and roar and cheer. But I always found the lyric very bittersweet and kind of had a longing to it. So I've done an arrangement that reflects that, and that kind of takes us through the whole season. So that's been the process for me.
Nice. And yeah, with Old Lang Syne, I mean, I think people will always love that song on New Year's Eve, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Yes.
and how has
Yeah,
it been? You've been touring. Have you been touring with this album in Ireland recently?
I'm having great fun touring with it. Actually, I'm doing a big tour, and I decided that the nicest thing to do with it would be to take it into sacred spaces, into churches and cathedrals. And I bring the string quartet with me and a beautiful folk and classical guitarist called Robbie Overson. And yeah, we create this lovely soundscape in the churches, which these churches are built with the beautiful acoustics just to make music like this, you know. And I think it helps everybody because as soon as you walk in the space, you know, your heart rate slows and you expect something, you know, a little bit more peaceful and maybe soulful and joyful, but in a, you know, an uplifting way. And so everybody goes out, and ourselves included, all the musicians feeling uplifted and really put into this the season and the spirit of the season. So yeah, it's been great going the length and breadth of the country all over the place, and it's really great having lovely loads of fun with it.
Brilliant. And who are some of your musical influences yourself?
I have really, really varied musical influences actually, because I studied classical music for a long time, and I was a cathedral chorister, and so I'd be very influenced by sacred music and ancient Latin chant and all of that, because there would have been a lot of that in my background. And then you're growing up, you know, in the 80s and 90s, I would have really looked out for very significant female artists, which there weren't a whole lot in pop music. And so, you know, when I was younger, it would have been Kate Bush, and who's remained a hero all my life, and singers like Alison Moya and Annie Lennox. And then when I was in my later teens and early 20s, it would have been Bjork, who I was really gravitated towards her creativity and her expressiveness. And then I love a lot to listen to a lot of jazz, and I absolutely adore Irish music. We have such an incredible wealth of traditional music and, you know, experimental traditional music with bands like the Gloaming and Martin Hayes, and, you know, amazing contemporary female composers in that kind of traditional classical space like Zoe Conway, who really inspires me. And so yeah, really lucky to be inspired by people that I know, as well as people who are like, you know, demigods to me half my life with what they produce. So you know, I love amazing English composers of that gorgeous kind of cinematic ilk, like Ralph Vaughan Williams and Richard Rodney Bennett, and really beautiful, sweeping English countryside pastorals, that kind of lush tone. So I adore that too. I have such a varied set of influences to draw from, not only in what I listen to, but also in my own background and what I've sung, um, and my own experiences in terms of singing and composing. I do think we all become the sum of all of our parts, don't we? So yeah, I have that kind of folk and sacred background that melds with my classical training, and I think kind of that's what makes all of us unique, really, if we can just allow ourselves to express the sum of all of our influences.
Yeah, and what's the process like when you write a song for the first time? Do you go with the melody first and then do the lyrics, or is it a mixture of the two?
So very occasionally, a melody and lyric will just drop from the heavens intact when I'm writing on my own. Oftentimes I'll write with Latin text, and then so that's just a matter of the melody forming around that for me. Then sometimes I think of a melody and then I wonder how would I like to to write a lyric to it. And then sometimes, like with Song of Winter Dreaming, I thought of the chorus lyric first and then decided on how the melody would go. And then I collaborate a lot with a gentleman called Brendan Graham, who wrote the song that I sang in Eurovision. And he is a wonderful songwriter. And usually the way I collaborate with Brendan is that he gives me a set of lyrics more often than not. I pop them up on the piano right here. That's my piano right there. And I pop them up on the piano, and I am, yeah, usually, I mean, literally, he writes so lyrically that the melody literally falls, and the accompaniment falls out of the lyrics as soon as I put them on the piano. I love writing with him. So it's quite varied, actually. I hadn't really thought about that now that you ask me. I do realize that it's there's not one set way. It's wherever the inspiration comes from. You just have to grab it before it passes on through.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned your Eurovision song. You are, of course, Ireland's most recent Eurovision Song Contest winner. What are your memories of winning in 1996 with The Voice?
I remember it being rather overwhelming because I wasn't involved in light entertainment at all at the time. Was only coming from the classical music world, so it did seem like a very different universe. But my most abiding memory of it, apart from just the glitz and glam and intensity and craziness and fun of it all, was and cameras and learning all of that, really learning that world as I went. The most abiding memory for me was realizing, having come from the classical music world, which it can be very exclusive in its attitude towards music and what constitutes good music and bad music and other genre and all of that. And the thing that really I took my big takeaway from Eurovision was that genre was really just some type of bizarre construct. And yes, of course, there are different skill levels and there's different, there's virtuosity and there's things that are more complicated and more difficult to achieve. And of course, that deserves a lot of recognition, etc. But actually, at the end of the day, it's all music. And the idea of music is, yes, to experience beauty, but we can all experience beauty. But what we experience through the beauty of music is a sense of connectedness to the music, to the person who wrote the music, but also to anybody else who might listen to the music, and particularly when it's live, to each other in the space. And I realized just how completely connected the audience felt to the music that was happening in Eurovision was the very same connectedness that was happening in a classical music concert hall that I would perform in, and that actually genre was I think a construct. It wasn't a true thing, and that I learned very early on that actually music is just about connecting, and that has been what's motivated me ever since. And it was a beautiful gift to learn as a young performer.
Yeah, and I suppose when you did it at the time, you had no idea how well you would do in the competition, did you
No,
really?
no idea at all. Yeah, because Ireland had won a whole pile of years in a row. We won, but my win was the fourth out of 5 years, and so there was no pressure on me to do well. It was kind of like, oh gosh, for God's sake, don't win again. That was kind of like what people were saying when I was going out. And I mean, I assumed that, a big pop song would win or something. And then when I got there, local media approached me and they asked me to do kind of behind the scenes of the camera because they were saying, actually your song is favorite in the bookies. And so we were astonished to hear this when we got there, and the song was actually favorite to win. And it ended up winning by quite a big margin in the end. So it was just the right time for a song like that, I think. Although, to be fair, I think it was a really beautiful song. And Brendan wrote the song 2 years previous to that, song called Rock and Roll Kids, which is also a really gorgeous song. And I think if either of those songs ended up in the competition again, now they probably both would still win. So, I think a really good song wins in the end, right? Well, I hope so.
Yeah. And so Winter Dreaming, is this out now, the album?
Yeah, so it came out just there in November. And yeah, it's getting a really, really lovely reception. I'm getting great feedback from it. I'm hearing it a lot on the radio here in Ireland, which is really nice. And I know it's been played on the radio in the UK too. So I'm absolutely delighted about that. And getting a lot of messages from people saying that they're including it in their Christmas and they're streaming it when they're decorating their Christmas trees. My Christmas tree around the corner, there's mine. We,
Nice.
we listened to it when we were decorating the tree the other night, and that was a real it was a real moment of feeling, yeah, it's, this has happened. I've recorded a new album and it's, Christmas is coming up. And so it was lovely. Yeah. I'm getting really nice feedback. Yeah. So it's everywhere that people like to listen to music, really. Songs of Winter Dreaming, Eimear Quinn.
Yeah.
And I'm releasing like videos as I go as well, because I kind of do everything myself. So I'm trying to keep on top of it all.
Great. This is my tree.
Oh, look at that. I love the blue. Oh, yeah, I really
I've
like
been
that.
blocking it for most of the interview, but yeah, it's there.
Lovely.
Well, it's been lovely to speak to you. And before we go, what two songs from the album would you like me to play on the show?
Well, what style do you think that your audience most enjoy? Do they enjoy upbeat? Do they enjoy world music? Do they enjoy mellow? Do they enjoy
Maybe an
uh,
upbeat one and a mellow one to add a bit of
okay.
contrast.
So yeah, so upbeat. I think that the lead song, Song of Winter Dreaming, is quite upbeat. They might enjoy that one. And then I think the audiences are really loving the arrangement of Old Lang Syne. So maybe at some point you could play that one for them. I think they'd like it. Well, I hope they would.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot for joining me on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No
Happy
problem.
Christmas.
Yeah, happy Christmas. Thanks.